I don't know how long ago it was now, like 3.5 years ago, I was on strike from a job as a writer for a daytime talk show, which is an absurd sentence in a lot of ways. To be on strike from a job where you get paid to do nothing and write jokes, to ask for more money, doesn't make sense to me. But I think unions are corrupt just like everything else, and the whole world's falling apart, and China can have it, it's okay. I'll get a bike, I'll learn Mandarin, it's on fine. So I'm on strike, and I don't save, I'm an American and an alcoholic, so I don't save money, I drink it. So I was broke during the strike, during the writer's strike, and I was starting to get very depressed because I'm a Jew, and so I was sitting in my apartment, and I was starting to take a lot of Vicodin and Adderall and Xanax and any other pills, and drink 2 Buck Chuck and drink wine and watch Shawshank Redemption because it was always on, and nap. That was my life for a couple months. I would go picket and walk around with a sign with a bunch of people who would say things like, Hollywood's a union town, like a bunch of writers saying we deserve better pay, but nobody could fucking write anything to protest with. Maybe fucking do some work, assholes. Have you watched anything on TV? Anyway, so we were doing that, and then I would go home and do these pills, and one day I woke up and I decided, I called in sick to striking and picketing, and I was sitting home, and I remember the morning I woke up and I took a pill, I went over, and I was literally broke, the type of broke where you go to bed at, like you eat, sleep for dinner, you know what I mean? Like you're so broke, you just like, I'm gonna go to bed because I have no food. That's how broke I was. But I had a little bit of food, and I woke up and I made some eggs, and even though I was broke, I had some Gruyere cheese and prosciutto because I'm not uncivilized. I made that on the gas stove, and then I sat down, took another pill, drank some wine, checked my email, and watched Shawshank Redemption and fell asleep. And when I woke up, I realized I had left the stove on, and I left all the windows in my apartment closed. And it occurred to me, like, this, to show you where I was in my life, if I had blown up my apartment, or if I had died of gas and like anyone found me, there's not a person who knows me who wouldn't just be like, no, yeah, it was a suicide. Like, I don't think they would invest in me. Like, even my mother, who I have a good relationship, usually mothers are like, no, not my son. I think even my mother would be like, eh, well, you know, saw it coming. So that's where I was. And then the strike ended, and I went back to work, and I decided that I was going to try to better my life and try to do well at work. And there was a very sort of like, my boss, she went back to work during the strike, and so there was like a very sort of uncomfortable thing that we were on strike, and she was working, and she was one of the first people to cross the picket line, and there was a lot of press about it, and it was a very uncomfortable situation. So I decided I was going to just sort of not get caught in the drama and kiss up to her, and secure my job and get my shit together. And so they asked for somebody to do something on the weekend. American Idol, the show would sometimes send somebody out to American Idol to ask them questions and then come back, and then she would do bits about it, so it would be like a remote piece. And so they asked me to write on the weekend, no extra pay, and I agreed to do it. So the problem was I have never in my life seen American Idol because I read and I have friends, I guess. And so I didn't know what to do, so I started IMing with people to find friends like who watched it, and I eventually through a friend and a cousin and blah blah blah, I got turned on to this girl who's like a friend of a cousin in Boston who I've never met. Her name is Hannah, and she's 13 years old. So I IMing with Hannah about American Idol, and she's like, oh my god, it's so cool, you're such a great job, oh my god, you work for TV, it's so awesome. And I was like, nobody's ever said that about my life, yay, thank you. And I was very happy. And she wrote some jokes. And she told me about American Idol and who the people were and all the contestants, and I wrote some stuff and I sent it back to her, and she spell checked it because I'm a horrible speller and this 13-year-old was fucking better at it than I was. And then she started sending me a lot of jokes. So I went back to work, I did the event, it was what it was, gift bags, people acting like assholes, not taking themselves, or taking themselves way too seriously, nobody can sing, everybody looks pretty. I went to work and that went all fine. But then this 13-year-old girl started chatting up with me on Facebook a lot. And you know, she's like, oh my god, that's so great, I saw the show, that's so awesome. We wrote that, LOL, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Do you have a girlfriend? Exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark, you know. And I said, no, this is where I made a mistake. I probably should have blocked her as a friend right then. But I said, no, How about you? But I was trying to be friendly. I didn't realize I was accidentally flirting with a 13-year-old girl. Granted, I was still taking a lot of pills and drinking a lot of to-go trucks. So, or I actually started to get better wine because I was back at work now. But same thing. So she responds saying, no, blah, blah, we go back and forth. I leave it at that, and then at work I just start getting message after message after. And at this point I block her. Cut to a couple days later, I come home, and I walk past my Armenian neighbor who doesn't speak any English but smokes cigarettes in her doorway wearing lingerie. She's so fucking beautiful. She doesn't say anything, she's like, I love her. Because I know she hates me and she can't speak, like everything about her is the perfect woman. And she wears lingerie, I don't know, she's married, everything about it's impossible to have. Love her. And so she's standing there, she's like, you got flowers. I was like, what? So I go upstairs and there's flowers there. And I'm like, my first thought is like, they're from my neighbor who doesn't speak English, we're gonna have sex, it's gonna be great sex. She hates me and it's fucking gonna feel so good. And so, but no, I open the card and they're actually from Hannah, the 13-year-old girl in Boston. And 5 thoughts pop in my head right then, like, how the fuck did this girl get my address? How does she have a credit card at the age of 13? I don't fucking have a credit card that I can use. I'm fucking 40 at this point. And third of all, the third thing I thought was, how old was Natalie Portman in The Professional? and then I erased that because that's inappropriate. Then I guess if I directed Chinatown, it would be okay, but I didn't. So I go back to work and I call her up and I tell her, this isn't going to work out. Thank you for the flowers, but I don't think we can be friends anymore. This is inappropriate. Stop contact. So I cut off all contact. So I don't hear from her for about 6 months. And I go about the job, the strike ends, and it's roughly around the it was actually about 6 months. It was my 40th birthday, which was also the same day that Barack won the election, which is very great, but it also, he totally fucked up my birthday, and nobody fucking wanted to go to the restaurant because there was no TVs, so I fucking was sitting home watching the election, taking pills, smoking cigarettes. And I get my phone rings, and it's her, and she calls to wish me happy birthday. She's like, happy birthday. I was like, oh, that's so nice. And she says, you're so old. And I said, yeah, I am. And she goes, yeah, you really are. I was like, okay, relax. I have a fucking limit. And then she says, I have a boyfriend. And I was like, really? And I go, that's nice. He goes, yeah, he's 38. And I was like, motherfucker. And she goes, no, I'm just kidding. She's adorable. And someday, somewhere, I'm going to be asking her for a job. And so, anyway, so she says, no, she was 14 at the time, and she was dating some guy who was like 13 and a half, like at school, but they had a crush. And I was like, oh, you're dating younger guys. I said, you know, I'm sorry I cut off ties, but it was inappropriate. And she's like, no, that's okay. And I was like, it's still probably inappropriate that we talk. And she's like, that's okay. I really just called to say goodbye. My dad said I could call you. I told him about it, and he said I could call you after 6 months if I didn't talk to you, just to sort of say goodbye. And I was like, oh, and she totally was disinterested in me. And I was like, she's breaking up with me. My 13-year-old girlfriend's breaking up with me. And I was really sad. And the last thing she said to her, I was like, well, you know, we could still, like, probably... If you like a joke I write on Facebook, you can like it. Like, I think that's okay. She's like, no. And then she said, the last thing she said, she's like, have a good life. And I said, and I just responded, too late. And I hung up.